This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, and welcome to the Harding Street Church of Christ online meeting for our evening devotional. My name is Brother Derrick Taylor, and I'll be sharing a portion of God's Word with you. This devotion will be entitled Evil Communications. So, I wanted to look at the concept of evil communications, or more accurately, the demoralization of the young people in our society today. And I think many of us, depending on which decade we were born, we remember a time before the internet was a thing. I like to call this period of time the analog age. Uh, I was born in the 80s, so the digital wave was in process, but it hadn't nearly gotten to the level it's at now. The benefit of the analog age when I was growing up in it is that it made you have to be creative about how you did things. If you wanted to watch certain TV shows and you wanted to record it, you had to have a tape set up to a VCR. Or if you want to know when a show was going to be on or be airing, you had to go get a TV guide. Dating around that time was reduced down to your local area or places that you often frequented. So, more than likely, if you were going to meet someone, you were going to meet somebody that lived in your local state or attended school there. Everything during that time was localized because you had no way really to be able to access people or certain content outside of being there in person or being able to pick up the phone and call them. So, things were a bit different. And then we got into the age of the internet, and all this seemed to change. I began to recall a memory of a teacher that I had in school. And at the time that the internet was getting ready to break away, um, they were very excited about how that would change the world, about how we would have access to information across the nation, and how that would begin to change us. That teacher reminded me how he had no idea how the impact of that change would impact us all and change our lives. So now that we've arrived in that internet age, we are in the age of what I like to call the age of hyper convenience, or the on demand age. Everything that we want or could want at a certain degree, we have access to it through an app or with the touch of a button. You can order food through DoorDash without having to leave your house. You can pick up your phone and shop online. There's so many things that you can do now. But it turns out that the devil also uses this technology as well as a convenience to lead us into temptation. Many of the artists that are on streaming platforms today that are popular, especially in the hip hop culture, are popular because they are promoting promiscuity to women and men. And they are reveling in the love of money. They are reveling in sex and material gains. This music is easily accessible through the phone and through tablets to young children, young adults. Gone are the days of having to go inside a brick and mortar store and purchase a physical copy of music, where you might be asked to show ID if that music was above that age limit that you were allowed to purchase it at. We now have these so-called dating apps on our phones as well, where people can pull up their phone and with the swipe of a button, they can find people to engage in fornication with. The devil has rebranded this to what society now calls casual sex. The idea of normalizing sex as casual has been such a successful campaign for the devil that we are seeing people who have children out of wedlock at alarming rates. Listen to some of the statistics. 40% of all births in the United States are out of wedlock. This is the results as of the year of 2020. For African Americans, that number is at a rate of 69.4%. For American Indians and Alaska Natives, it's at 68.2%. Native Hawaiians and other Pacific Islanders, that rate is at 50.4%. For Hispanics, that rate is at 51.8%. For Caucasians, it's at 28.2%. And for Asian Americans, it's at 11.7%. So we can see this impacts different cultures at different rates. But nevertheless, it is a worldwide issue. What does God think about this? What does he think about the age that we now live in? What does he think about sex outside of marriage? These are all good questions. Let's turn to the Bible to find out. 1 Corinthians 10, chapter 10, verse 8 reads, "Neither let us commit fornication as some of them committed, and fell in one day 320,000." Ephesians chapter 5, verses 2 through 3 reads, "And walk in love as Christ also hath loved us, and hath given himself for us an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanliness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints." So we can clearly see there's nothing casual about sex outside of marriage. And it is a damaging act in more ways than one. It's a sin, that's the primary issue, which separates us from God. And furthermore, when a child is produced from it, more often than not, the mother and the father do not end up staying together. So the child is deprived of the family, of the structure of a two-parent household, which is what God intended it to be for those who intend to be together in an intimate way and get married and have children. I believe God's design has a purpose, and when we try to circumnavigate his structure of doing things, it seems to always turn out for the worse for us. This is why Jesus and Paul and many others both spoke on marriage and being the institution to which a man and a woman may come together as one. Even when we're first introduced to Adam and Eve, God makes it clear through the law of creation that he made man and woman, he made man and woman for man. And for them to be one in the eyes of God, it must be done through marriage. If we look at Genesis chapter 2, verses 24 through 25, it reads, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed." 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 1 through 2 reads, "Now concerning the things whereof ye wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband." And there's more examples. It continues on. If we look at Hebrews 13 and 4, it reads, "Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed is undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge." I believe even though some of us may not be engaging, even though some people may not be engaging in physical sex, they still have access through lust, through websites of pornography, through the internet. And it's something that they're able to access through their phone and tablets, even social media. And the exchange of nude material throughout phones is made to be as normal as sending someone an emoji. These type of things that are affecting the young culture, they tend to heighten unrealistic ideas for what a relationship is. They distort what sex is between a man and a woman, and they distort the minds of young people and young women by introducing them to these ideas, which cause perverse imaginings of the carnal mind. These things tend to focus on pleasing the desires of the flesh and not doing what is pleasing to God. Because of these influences to satisfy the lust of the flesh at all costs, young men in this age are now becoming addicted to pornography, and young women have had sexual relations at a rate of 79% or more by the time they reach the age of 20. So it's very important for young people to make a conscious effort to maintain discipline over their desires by not giving into them, by not putting themselves in situations where they could be tempted to give into lust or sexual desire. For young ladies, what does this mean? This means not wearing revealing clothing, not dressing provocatively, not engaging in sensual dancing. For young men, this means not going to pornographic websites, not using apps like Tinder to engage in cultural hookups, not being pressured by your peers who may be doing these same things to take part in sexual immorality and being able to join in with them. If I can give advice to any of these young people or adults in general, with the lesson that I've learned is that I've had to learn the hard way. I'm I had a child outside of wedlock, and the guilt and weight of that sin is a heavy load to be able to bear for anyone. And even after I changed my ways and I repented of these things, the punishment and the after effects of my decisions still have a rippling effect in my life today. So I strongly implore you all to use self-control in your lives, to carry yourselves in the manner that is pleasing to God. And by doing such, not only do you please God, but you're also an example to others as well. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, "There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it." And let us remember what Paul advised in 1 Corinthians 15:33. "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." So I hope everyone keep that in mind with the things that they consume and the things that they take in, and make smart decisions. May God bless you until that appointed time when we meet again. Thank you.